Boys and girls, moms and dads, welcome to Pin to Pin, the Volleyball Podcast. My name is Ryan Tolman. I'm your host. I'm joined tonight by Danger Will Robinson, the co-host to my right. We've got our producer behind the screen back.
I'm back, guys.
He's back from his hiatus to California. And then we've got ourselves a guest today. So we're going to go ahead and get this show rolling. And then we're going to introduce our guest. He's sitting here in the middle thinking, man, when am I going to get my turn? But here we go. We didn't include Andrew in the high five like we did Chris.
We'll do it after we do an introduction.
It's
of
really
him.
Tough.
It is.
The high five's tough, Andrew. You got a lot of pressure. All right, so let me introduce our guest today, and then we'll get into what we're going to talk about. Our guest today is Andrew Yamashiro. He is my favorite Japanese.
What's a Japanese?
Yeah, so that's a great question.
The origin of this is very important.
So Andrew and I, we started coaching together a long time ago. Andrew's one of our coaches at Aspire, and he's coached at Hamilton and Higley and Mountain Point. And am I missing anywhere else in between?
Everywhere.
Benedictine in Mesa.
Literally everywhere.
Yeah, it's been around. Chandler Gilbert. Oh, that's right. So Andrew and I started coaching together, 7 years ago, 8 years ago.
2016, I think.
Been a minute. That's only 6 years ago. It was a while. Anyways, we probably need to figure that out.
When did Rach have to depart? Wasn't that when he took over and he started?
When my sister was. So I need to remember how old my nephew is, and that's bad. So he's probably like, oh, uncle doesn't know how old I am. But 6 or 7 years ago. Yeah. And so just getting to know Andrew, hey, where are you from? Whatever. And I guess I must have asked at some point, where's your family from? He says, well, I got some Japanese and some Hawaiian and some Chinese. I'm like, oh, that's a Japanese right there. So it stuck. And
I actually learned, I didn't know you're the one that coined that phrase.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right before this podcast, I learned that. I thought it was some other guy that came up with it.
Yeah, thank you very much. I am the coiner of the phrases, apparently. It's one skill that I didn't know I had. But Andrew's going to join us today. We're going to talk about volleyball. I know it gets crazy every time we talk about it, but
we are called the Pin to Pin Volleyball Podcast.
Yeah, right. Before we get to that though, Andrew, let's finish your introduction because we just threw out all those places where you coached. You went to high school at Hamilton. That's out in Chandler, by the way. 2-time reigning state champions on the girls' side. They're doing great things. And you were part of that staff too, right? Help those girls.
Yeah. The second year.
Okay. When did you start playing? We do this for everybody, right? So we might as well do an Andrew. When did you start playing volleyball?
So I started playing volleyball in 7th grade, and my dad told me, he's like, hey, basketball might not be your future because tall people need to play basketball.
Smart dad.
Then he's
really smart dad.
He also said that not all tall people are playing volleyball. Was he a liar?
Yeah, there's also tall person sport.
I trained myself to set and play back row, and then I was like, oh, I'll be a great volleyball player. But Hamilton was not in its prime back then like it was when we were in.
Who was your first coach?
My first coach, I don't even remember his name, honestly.
Middle school, right? Yeah,
7th grade.
He was at Hamilton.
At Hamilton.
Sorry, my first high school coach was Michelle Lefevre. And she was the first. We went through a tough phase, essentially. We went to freshman year, we had a coach. Second year, we had a different coach. And then third year, it was finally Bader.
Okay, Jeff Bader. Legendary Jeff Bader.
But Vanis helped out on the boys' side, didn't she?
Vanis helped out Vanis, the head coach of the girls.
Sharon Vanis.
Sharon Vanis, yeah.
Yes, very successful coach.
Our second year there. So in 2008, she was the JV coach. We were all super stoked. We thought she was going to be our head varsity coach.
Yeah, and then she's JV.
And then she was JV, and we were like, oh my God, what do we do? And Jordan...
I'll just go on JV.
Well, so literally we would go to varsity practice, and she started about a half an hour later. Uh-huh. So half the varsity team would literally leave varsity practice and finish, and we'd be like, all right, let's go train with Coach Vanis now and get some meaningful reps. And she's like, as long as you guys work hard, you guys can join practice. And it was the best thing forever.
Yeah,
for
sure.
us.
Well, she's great. I mean, if anybody's going to teach young volleyball players how to play hard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're right. She's great at that. Okay. So then at what point did you realize you wanted to coach?
So funny story about that. I never thought I was going to coach.
I don't think I know this story, so I'm excited.
I don't think I ever thought I was going to coach coming out of high school. There was things that I was always good about like rotations and things like that. Like I used to call teams out of rotation all the time.
You're definitely cracked at that, except for that one time against that Matrix team that we could never find out.
Hey, we figured out the second time.
It took us forever, right?
And then, but we got into the point where it was like, okay, well, Jordan asked me if I wanted to help out with JV because I wanted something to do over the weekdays, and he's like, you can just sign up as a volunteer and coach at Hamilton for fun.
So that's Jordan Bader.
Yep.
So Jeff Bader's son.
Jeff Bader's
he was coaching
son
there at the time.
And then Jeff was like, hey, I don't have an assistant. And Jordan recruited me and my other friend AJ to coach as just for fun.
Right.
And then he's like, Andrew, you're moving up to varsity. You're my assistant now. That is
at
how
19 or whatever.
19 years old. I was the assistant at varsity coach at Hamilton. And I just sat there and I was like, all right.
That's 2010.
Yep.
Or no, that's 2009.
It was December of 2010.
Okay.
The first year was 2011. But we got super fortunate because like that was the first year 2010 was the first year we were decent.
11
because we
was
the first year we ever made playoffs.
Yeah.
In the school history, which is crazy.
That was Tawa Bader, right?
Well, that was my senior year.
Twins.
So that's when we had Don Dia.
Oh, got it.
And
then springy young man.
And then 2011, we kind of just took the state by storm. Like we finished up, I think like 16-1, 17-1, something like that.
Crazy.
And then, but we got fortunate because we got Sage Gonzalez that first year.
Sage, great volleyball
as a
player.
freshman.
He better be listening to this, dude.
But
I will make sure. I will make sure.
Yeah, make sure, Sage, if you're listening, you got to comment.
But we got super fortunate. I mean, he was one of the most volleyball ready freshmen of all time.
Yeah.
Sage is probably the best volleyball player I've ever coached against.
Yeah.
I just inflated his ego a ton, right? But
he doesn't have an ego.
That's probably why it was so good.
Absolutely. No, so that's kind of how it started. And then we got a bunch of good kids. Like Manny Baca came in as like a junior out of nowhere, decided he's like, I'll play club and then play on varsity.
He was that big as a house.
Yeah. And
Mike McPherson,
bunch of really good volleyball
Bader
players.
and Kevin Gorns.
Zach Melcher, young Zach Melcher.
Yeah.
No, that's pre-Zach Melcher. That was the twins. We had the twins then.
The twins, yeah.
And they were both really good DSs. We had Ron Rwanta, who was a good DS. I mean, we were loaded defensively that year.
That'll certainly excite a young coach, right?
Yeah, it'll get
like
you hooked.
You're like, I don't know if I want to coach. And all of a sudden you're coaching great players. You're thinking, this is cool.
This is easy.
Winning's easy.
Wow.
We'll just win all the time.
17. I'm good at this.
Yeah, right.
Well, I knew like when I got in there, it was more of like, hey, I need you to set the other side when like the DS is coming in. I was like,
one of those playing coaches.
Yeah, I had to play and set against them, and then you kind of give them you the guys because those are all the guys that you grew up with and stuff. So like they were juniors and sophomores and freshmen when you were a senior. So you're like you can have these heart to heart conversations with them, and they'll probably listen to you. Like Bader,
totally different level.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like they loved Bader, but it was like, hey, it's not going to relate the same as a young guy who's good friends with you guys.
So then when did you start coaching at Aspire? Because I
that's not where he started club, dude. His club is hilarious.
Okay, so let's start there then.
Dude,
okay?
You got to know his background.
I started club at Voss, the YMCA Voss.
Dude,
I swear.
Did you know?
Yes, I know. I live with them, man.
I know, but did you know that Club Voss was started by me?
Oh, well, not the Awatuki one.
Yeah,
That's where I coached at.
After I left.
After you left, so
because I remember Deb came to me and she said, "We want to start this volleyball thing. Are you willing to do this?" And I said, "Sure, this is great. I would love to do that." The idea was to provide opportunities for kids to play that weren't necessarily good enough to go play at some of these bigger clubs. Like EVJ at the time was having. They were cutting hundreds of kids because they were massive, and there just wasn't enough places for them to play. And so Voss was supposed to be every YMCA was going to have this semi club team. They weren't really going to travel; it was still going to have an opportunity.
Yeah, and
I helped organize the whole thing and the vision and all that. And then a year after that, I got a phone call from Aspire, and they're like, "Hey, you want to come?" Sure, Coach Volley. I was like, "Yeah, it's done. It's much easier. You're gonna pay me the same. Like, I don't need the headaches of all this other stuff, right?" So you started at Voss.
Started at Voss under Deb Rothstein
out in Awatuki.
Awatuki. So originally, I coached, and Jordan and AJ, my buddy, both got coaching jobs there just because it was on an ad or something like that. And then I was like, "Well, if there's anything, let me know." So the only thing left was a 17s job, but they didn't have the court space. So we practiced at 5:30 a.m.
Yeah, that was.
Oh my God! What?
No,
Yes,
that was
swear
the
to
problem.
God.
That was the problem I had too. I'm like,
This is how it starts.
volleyball was just like this back burner. So basketball over there at the YMCA.
Yep. 5:30.
They only had the 2 courts. And so, yeah, I remember thinking I had to go over there, and I was driving 30 minutes to get to Ahwatukee to have that practice. And it was a nightmare. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I can't sustain this.
Yep.
That's another reason why I left. Like, I'm going to get paid the same. I can practice at night. Like, so how long did you stay at Voss?
So I was there for 2 years. I had this group of so I helped with the 17s, and then the next with that, I also would show up to Jordan's practice.
These are girls or girls? Okay.
So this was during my high school season.
I don't think they ever did boys after my year.
No, they did not.
My first, because we were like the test dummies with boys, and then after that they were like, we don't want boys anymore.
So I stayed with the group that we had. So we kind of had this group, added a couple kids, but all those kids afterwards, I think 8 out of the 10 that we had all ended up making ones and twos teams around
That's
the valley.
crazy. They just needed a place to start.
For you, boss. Well, 4 of them,
Yeah.
I think 2 of them actually went up to Aspire to play on their ones team, and we're
Okay.
oh, okay. Well,
We're pretty good at this.
Well, luckily they were 12-year-olds who haven't quite figured it out yet.
Right.
But then you're okay, they're going to be pretty good volleyball players.
So 2 years at Voss.
Then I went to Mesa High to coach their freshman and JV team.
Dude, I guess I should ask more questions.
yes.
I feel like a terrible friend at this point.
So we went to Voss, or not Voss, sorry, Mesa High.
Who was coaching at Mesa?
So Amy Strawn hired me over at Mesa High, and then I coached their freshman team the first year, the JV team the next year, and then as I coached the freshman and JV, I coached a club team from Mesa High.
Got it.
So it was all Mesa kids. And then after that...
And this is still just girls. You haven't even coached boys yet.
Well, he coached boys
Except
at
at
Hamilton.
Hamilton.
Right. Hamilton, yeah.
Do you know in Fuego yet?
I coached in Fuego for the 3rd year. So I didn't start. I just kind of was working a side job, and it was whatever. And then I eventually was just oh, Bader, if you have an extra team, he's like, I'll have you coach with Jordan. It'll be our 17s team. And then we did it for 3 years, I think, when I was there.
Okay.
And then when that came through, it was the next year is when I finally was okay, I'm going to try and coach somewhere. Jordan already had a job with Vanis at Aspire, and I was like, look, if you want to coach, we can get you a job as our 14-5s coach, coaching Fridays and Sundays. So I was
dude,
that's the gig. That's the best gig ever.
Get your foot in the door.
I signed up for it, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it, whatever.
And I don't even remember how it happened, honestly, that you jumped in with me, because my sister was coaching with me. And
we were sitting at tryouts, and I was coaching the 16-3s that year, which we turned into the 17-2s because we had some juniors that were pretty good.
Okay.
Oh, I remember that.
And then I was I remember you talking to Scott, I don't know how much Rachel's going to be there because she's
pregnant
sick.
And sick. She always got sick when she was pregnant.
And then I was like, well, what days are your practices? And you're 7 to 9, Monday, Wednesday. I was like, well, I have nothing those days, so maybe.
Worked out great.
And then I was like, well, I kind of need to do stuff. So if you need an extra player because you only have 11, I'll play. And then it ended up being, hey, we want to just assist for me the full time.
Perfect.
That was great. The group you went to 16 Patriot with in New Orleans, correct?
No,
16 American.
16 American that you coached with me because he couldn't be there.
No, that was
that's
the second
Indy.
time.
That's the next year.
Oh my gosh, this
is the Jordan Schumacher,
Jordan Schumacher, and in the middle from Campo, Tatum,
Adams.
There, okay, now we're on the same page.
It all blends together.
It does.
All right, well, that's quite the history. Everybody
started from the Voss. Now we're here.
Dude, it's crazy, right? That's awesome. So Andrew's with us today, and we're going to talk. We're going to dig deep into some volleyball stuff. Before we do that, though, we want to shout out a couple of people. We teased last episode that we were going to shout out our donors. We have 2 of them. And we're going to run a promotion. Hopefully, we get more. We got some stuff to pay for, just to try to hopefully at least break even. Noah, what's up? No, it looked like you want to say something. Oh, did you want to do your trivia question now? We got to get better at this segment thing.
We can, yeah. Well, we were in the middle of talking about the donors.
Yeah, let's do that. And then we're going to start a new segment called Trivia. Noah's Trivia of the Day. We need a better name.
ADHD at its finest.
I know, it's all over the place. All right, so our first donor ever, first guy that ever gave us money.
Dobson alum.
Awesome young man. His name is Dylan Cox. And I admittedly don't know why he doesn't live in Arizona anymore.
He likes playing beach volleyball too much.
Yeah.
So he did the flight attendant gig and that allowed him to travel and still see his friends and family.
He's all over the country now, but based in Chicago.
Based in Chicago. He's moving to Miami though in April.
Okay.
April, I think.
Yep.
He's a phenomenal beach volleyball player.
He's doing a good job.
Coached a year at Basha, I remember. Done some coaching or whatever, but
coached at Storm for a little.
Okay. He came to one of our Aspire practices. I walked in just over break. And when he was here in Arizona, I walked in and my son Garrick was setting him, and I walked over and Garrick's like, "Dad, this guy's really good." It's like, well, yeah, he's older, right?
He started volleyball his junior year of high school. It's
crazy.
Got cut from the baseball team.
And he went to Dobson.
Showed up in our gym, and he just put him in the middle.
Yeah.
With a headband.
It's awesome.
You guys got to look this highlight video up. It's great. He definitely blocked Sage Gonzalez for sure.
Sage probably didn't see him coming.
He talks so much crap to Sage.
I'm sure he does. So Dylan Cox, our first donor. Thank you, Dylan. We really appreciate that. Noah, where's the clap button?
Yeah, the clap.
Come on, Noah. There it is. Perfect.
Dylan.
Okay. That's it. And then we got a second donor.
This is a guy, I have no idea who this is, but I think you two do.
He messed us up in high school.
So our second donor, this came out of nowhere, is John Sheen. John graduated from Desert Vista.
Of Charlie Sheen?
Probably not.
Okay.
Graduated from Desert Vista in 2009. He was a sophomore on our state championship team in 2007. He played right side on that team, and he was not a good right side. I'm just going to throw it out there. John, sorry, buddy. I'm
Thanks
throwing you under
donations,
the bus. Appreciate the money. Sophomore John Sheen was not very good. We won despite having a very inexperienced right side player.
Proctor can help with that for sure.
Yeah, more of a setter. And then junior and senior he set, and he was phenomenal. Phenomenal. I think he was one.
Do we have a picture of this guy?
Yeah, he's on the state championship back there, number 2. So see the trophy, go to the left. There he is right there, John Sheen.
Okay.
Yeah, John, his senior year, recorded a quadruple double.
Oh, little Hakeem Olajuwon.
Yeah, it was the difficult quad: digs, assists,
kills,
aces. And aces.
This dude got 10 blocks.
You know,
you get the 5. You're
really impressive. John Sheen's great volleyball player.
You guys got to tell this John Sheen story though. This ring. It's hilarious.
We win in 2007. And Jostens comes and they got the ring for you and everything, and we're real excited to decorate these rings, and everybody gets their ring except for John. And I remember getting an email back in 2007 like, hey, everybody's picked up their ring except for John Sheen. I was like, I probably told him, I don't know, half dozen times, buddy, you gotta go get your ring. And never went and got it. I don't know why. I don't know if he didn't want to pay for it or just didn't care. I don't know. And then next thing you know, Andrew's designing a ring. Was it at Higley?
For Higley, yeah.
Higley. Yeah. So Andrew's state champion in, what year was that?
2018.
2018, state champion at Higley High School, coaching the boys team. Yeah, it's behind Will. They're hiding behind Will. And they're designing rings with Jostens, and John's is an example ring.
We took a picture. We're like,
inscribed in the middle and inside probably and everything. And so, John, if you're wondering, Jostens still has your ring. We probably could get it for you, buddy. It'd be a cool thing. So anyway, those are our first 2 donors. We appreciate you guys. We would love. Yep, there's another clap. We would love some more. Because they're our first 2 donors, they got the big long shout out, the introductions, all that stuff. Lifelong answered questions. You guys can ask a question anytime you want. We'll answer on the next
100%.
episode. And then we're gonna send you the first ever Pin to Pin T-shirt. We're coming out with some merch, and we will get that in the mail to you guys. Not too long.
Dylan, we're not
future.
mailing it to Chicago. You're just going to fly out.
We'll have to wait. Yeah, we'll hold it till you get here.
It'll be sometime next week.
And then we're going to run a promotion here, right?
Promotion?
Yeah, promotion. So if you donate, and the donation button is on our website. You can find that through wherever you find your podcast, Apple, Google, all that stuff. We'll put a link on our YouTube page. And then you can find the donate button. It's just a Venmo. And for $3, you can get a shout out on the show. I know it's crazy. People are going to donate like wild. They're just going to $3.
If someone actually just donates $3, that'll be hilarious.
$3 is
just
great.
3.
It's easy,
just
right?
3, yeah.
I'm expecting my mom to donate. You hear that, Mom? At least $3. She already got her shout out.
She got a free shout out. Dang it.
Free shout out. $5 gets you a shout out, and then we'll answer a question on the show. So you're going to have to make sure you add a question in the Venmo when you donate, and then we'll answer your question. And then $20 gets you the shout out, the question, and then the pin to pin t-shirt. So
just everything.
We are very excited for our donations coming up. All right, let's get into the volleyball. We've talked a lot about who Andrew is, so now he has credibility. You guys can listen to what he has to say because it's really good stuff. So today we've talked a lot about positions and how to get started in volleyball, what to look for. I mean, it's just a bunch of stuff, obviously, right? But today we're gonna dive into what we think is Andrew's biggest asset as a coach.
His bread and butter, he said.
Andrew has a unique ability on any given day to coach a 12-year-old girl and an 18-year-old boy senior or girl senior or whatever, like an 18-year-old senior. And that's not easy to do. And so today we're going to talk curriculum. And this is something that I don't think this is unique to us, obviously, but we've developed over the years a curriculum that we share with our coaches that we want them to try to gauge where their kids are at, right? As teachers, as educators, you use standards and curriculum to get your kids to a certain point. We see that as being very valuable on the volleyball court with our coaches. So we're going to start with, we'll go each skill, serving, passing, setting, hitting, blocking, digging. And then we're going to go from emerging, proficient, and mastery. So 13s and 14s, 15s, 16s, up to 17s and 18s, where we feel like you should master the skill. And so then, Andrew, what we want kind of from you is to jump in here and talk about maybe some of the things that you look for, some of the things that you coach. Like when you get a kid in a lesson or whatever on your team, how do you kind of attack these things? So let's start with serving. Maybe not, and this is the interesting part. Maybe not a lot of people know the depth that you can really get into with some of this volleyball stuff, right? So there's two kinds of serves. What are they?
There's more than just two.
There's two kinds of two kinds of serves.
Okay, a float and a spin.
Okay, yeah. So we got two of those. And then there's two kinds of floats, a stand float, jump float. So we're going to talk about basically what those look like. So Andrew, when you get a kid early on, what are some of those things from the serving standpoint that you're looking for?
It just depends. When we get kids, it's dependent on their skill level, obviously. I train kids anywhere from like 12-year-old, obviously, to like, could be a 13-1s kid, 13-2s, 13-3s, whatever. And so when you get these kids, you kind of have to gauge where they're at already. Right. And their skill standpoint and their strength is the biggest thing. At young ages, you guys, it's tough to see, like, you get into a serving rep with them and they're like, wow, this kid does not have the strength to serve a ball at all. Yeah. I have a 13-year-old right now who is like, beginning of the season, she's 6 feet tall, but probably the skinniest person on our team. Yeah. Could barely hit it to our own 10-foot line and off a serve. But you kind of have to train it and just say, well, let's look at the skill. Let's train them as if they're going to create a skill. And then we're going to say, if you err, you err. We don't care about the errors. We care about the form check. And then strength comes as you give them hundreds and hundreds of reps. And that's where the reps come with feedback, right? Is why we do lessons. And that's kind of what you guys talked about, is you want very specific feedback. So the kid will be super upset for about a week, probably a couple weeks of lessons. And then they hit those first 1, 2, 3 in a row, 4 in a row. You should have seen this kid's face when she hit 3 in a row. It was like Christmas, right? So when you're hitting skills, it's more of, can we build technique and where's their technique at? Like, you'll see a lot of kids who like try and shot put the ball rather than just swing through the ball, right? Right. So you're looking at kids here. You can't give a defined standpoint, but you can gauge a kid based on their athleticism, how much they've already played volleyball. All those things are huge into dictating whether is this kid ready to jump float? Is this kid a standing float serve kid? Or are we just trying to create fundamentals so they can just serve the ball over the net?
How do you know when to go from a stand float to a jump float,
that was my next
a jump
question,
spin to a hybrid? Like, how do you know?
So with like...
Because you have to have a baseline there somewhere,
absolutely.
Right?
So I think when you can successfully tell a kid, hey, I want you to stand float, ball comes out flat and clean all the time. So when you're saying ball doesn't spin, you can drive it anywhere from probably close to end line to the 10-foot line. You can move it ball at least from 5, 6, and 1. So your deeper zone serves. I think that's usually a time where you're like, all right, maybe we should start working on your jump float.
I've got girls on my 15s team right now that are stand floaters because they lose the consistency, right? They haven't quite gotten the proficiency in the stand float to move to maybe the jump float, right?
Absolutely.
We'd like them at 13s, 14s, girls and boys, to get to the point where they are jump floating, right? You're a little bit more aggressive from that service line. And then, so once we get to that point, we go to the jump float. What are we looking for at that point from the jump float standpoint? Like how are we looking for proficiency there?
So we're looking for, when we attack the jump float, it's more of a, can we hit that ball flatter and cleaner than your jump, if you're standing float serve, right? If you have 15s kids who are stand floating, right, you're going to see that kid be like, that kid is float serving a ball faster with a standing float than a jump float.
Right.
So you're trying to gauge, can this kid hit a ball faster with their jump float and keep the ball in play, or at least attack the end line really well, right?
Sure.
So we're trying to see, can I get this kid to be a little bit more, because some of them need that little bit of extra speed or jump power to really push that ball to the end line. So that when you're looking at it, you're saying, okay, is this kid creating more power or less power with their jump float? And then that's when you kind of gauge, is this worth it or not?
Right. Okay, so now boys versus girls.
Boys that
jump spin, right? Now the boys are starting would want to jump. Like at some point, most boys, all of them want to, right?
Yeah.
Girls rarely get to that. You rarely see a girl who's back there just with a gnarly top
Cole
spin.
Peterson.
Yeah.
That's the one that comes to mind.
Right.
She cranks that, man.
Or if we had like Tatum Parrott, if we didn't want to save her shoulder the whole season, she could have been gnarly at a top spin.
So you don't have a lot of that, but boys certainly do. At what are you able to identify, or how are you able to identify kids that maybe should take that next step, boys that should take the next step and try to become jump spinners?
I think when you look at kids who are, when you warm up, right, a lot of what my go-to jump, like warm-up drill is self-toss to attack, right? When they can start self-tossing to attack, a back row attack, and actually create spin on the ball, they're wailing it to a wall or whatever. That's when I'm like, all right, this is great. Because then we see spin, let's step them back a little bit, give them more court to work with. And that's when they can start actually forming the ball. Now the question becomes when you sit there and you're saying, do I want an elite jump server or a good jump server right now? Because in Arizona right now in high school, there's probably 2 elite jump servers in our state for boys, give or take. And then when you say, well, if we're just looking for good jump servers to get that different look or a non-float look, because you need that in boys volleyball.
Yeah, the variety helps on the end line.
Absolutely. So you can have kids who are jump serving, but in reality, is it hitting that 50 plus mark?
Or is it a coach's down ball?
Yeah.
That's the $1 million question, right?
So how do you, go ahead. Did you have a question?
I didn't say anything.
I thought, I can't hear.
No, you're good.
Andrew. So my next question, that's all over the place. How do you train that? What are some things that I want to have an elite jump server? What are some things that you're looking for in training, and what are your key points that are going to help these kids get to that stage? And Will, you can jump in as well.
I think for me, it's a lot of how you train kids to attack a ball. So are they creating a ton of torque when they're hitting? Are they open to close? Are they doing all this external to internal rotation? Those are so many things that play into just attacking itself. If you can get a great attacker and teach them how to do it on the net, I think you're able to do it on an end line, right?
Right, yeah.
But a lot of kids are, like I did a lesson today with a girl who has a great arm, and she is always behind her. The ball's always behind her. And when she goes up, she can crack it, but it's going to be, wow, you could probably crack a topspin serve probably better than a front row attack
so
right
you
now.
Make it go up a little bit, right.
So it's just, I think it depends on how you train the kid is going to be the same way as you do on the net as if you're topspin serving. Jump floating is obviously a little bit different. But when you get into that topspin serve, you can train a kid to attack, you can just tell them how to place the ball comparatively to you to make it more effective.
Will, you got anything to add there? I mean, what are you looking for?
I think
from that training standpoint,
when it comes to the ages of when a kid needs to get this, if I coach 16s, they have to know how to jump spin. And I know that's not what you asked, but I think that's a good point. Yeah, and for girls, if you can't jump float at 15, you're behind probably.
Yeah, I agree with that, except the fact that there are some elite stand floaters in all levels.
Yeah, you do see it, and if you see it at the NCAA level, it's usually the kid that sits 20 feet back.
Oh, they just bomb serve.
Yeah, yeah. Wisconsin is known for having one of those. Like, hey, go in and serve this ball.
It's just a different look. It's like a top spin for boys, right?
Exactly. So I think at certain ages they need to be at certain skill sets. So a spin serve at like Trent Mosier, he's doing a pretty good job on his spin serve. He kind of has it, and
took him a while.
It's a really
this
complex
year was
movement.
Up and down. Yeah, but great attacker, and it finally started to translate. My big thing with the serving is just from a coaching standpoint is just routine. Too many kids go back and it's different every time.
Every time. Oh God.
You got to get your footwork down. You got to have the same routine. You got to go slow to fast, and they work the toss, right. You got to make sure your toss is there. And I think the toss is the part at all levels, right? Whether you're 13s to 15s to 16s, 17, 18s.
Can you repeat it?
Always the hardest part, right?
Absolutely.
So training, that's huge. Okay, let's move on to passing. 13s, 14s, basic platform work, right?
Can you hold your wrists and hands and keep your platform straight?
And then right, and then posture. You got to learn how to stand, right?
If you don't know how to stand, you don't know how to move.
Really important. And then as they move through their proficiency, we're looking at angle control, footwork patterns, and then finally proficiency is really understanding where the ball's coming from, controlling your vision, picking up earlier because it comes faster as you get older, right? What are some really main keys, Andrew, that you focus on in training when it comes to passing? I've spent a lot of time with you on the volleyball court coaching. You're a great passing coach. Do you have time to come coach my boys at Perry this year? Some passing skills.
I offered you the one day a week.
I know you did 1 day a week. It might be worth it. So we'll talk about some of those skills that you specifically look for when passing, and it could be early on or more proficient, like wherever you want to, pinpoint.
I think it just depends on the team. As we look at younger ages, like I won't coach my 13s team the same way I coach my 16s team. With my 13s team, we're talking about, hey, let's get ourselves under the ball. Let's make sure we're midline. We want to pass that ball high and off. With our 16s team, we're saying, let's go pass a little bit more aggressively. Let's try and shoot that ball a little bit so that we can get our offense to be more dynamic, allows our setters to be more aggressive. So it just kind of depends on the team. As you look at the younger kids, you're saying, are you in good posture? Are your hips facing the server? Can we midline that ball? Why can't we midline that ball is our $1 million question, because most kids aren't serving a 40-mile-per-hour float server at that age, right? If they are, good for them. But when we talk to 16s, it's more, do I have strong, aggressive shoulders? Are my hips in a good spot to where I can be aggressive with the pass? Those things are so important.
And you're not midlining.
Midlining.
A lot of angle control at that age. 16.
You're passing a lot outside your midline. If you're midlining, they probably laid up a ball for you, and you're saying thank you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's awesome.
I would say at 18s is when your vision is gnarly. That's when your kids' heads start moving less. Like
that's when their depth perception becomes really good.
They've passed thousands of balls at this point.
I love watching, like when we get these gnarly guys that come into our gym, it looks like their head doesn't move, and everything else moves around their head. Right? Like JT comes in the gym, he's passing balls like up to his 10 o'clock or whatever, 2 o'clock. And his head's just still.
Right.
Wow, that's crazy.
Picks it up quick.
Yeah.
I had a great conversation with Landon Fuller about that. Sophomore, junior outside hitter. I don't know if he reclassified with COVID over at Benedictine University. He coaches with us at Aspire, played for us. And he talked about, he just, when he finally turned a corner as a passer, he envisioned this like hoop around him, and his arms were always attached to like this big hoop as he went. So when he would swing his arms, but he's passing, like you said, at 2 o'clock, his arms still kind of stay on that plane. And I think that's the vision, right? You see it and you know where those arms are supposed to go, and you don't have to, you said move your head, but it was kind of interesting. I equated that to the golf swing as a golfer, right? You see some of those trainers where you get that swing plane on the golf with the golf club. It's the same idea from the passing standpoint.
What are you looking at there? No.
Just looking.
Okay. Just making sure you didn't see anything bad. That's all.
All right. Hey, let's keep going. Settings next. Yeah. I should be the expert on this because I have 3 setters in my house, but you guys actually train both of them. So if Lily doesn't turn out to be a great setter, it's probably my fault because I'm training her more than
lesson with her. I did one lesson with her.
So I'm going to blame you for that one lesson.
That one lesson. Yeah.
So early on, and this is stuff that is huge early on, right? 13s, 14s, footwork, trying to square to your target, ball-shaped hands, setting a hittable ball. We progress into having a good finish, maybe working in a jump setting. And then once you get 17s, 18s, and for girls, it's crazy because the girls is
a
lot faster,
patterns.
right? It's a lot faster.
So many footwork patterns.
Progression, right? Your footwork patterns, and then the tempo. The progression happens a little sooner than maybe it does for boys. And then eventually you're trying to make a neutral catch every time. And that's
deception.
That's the footwork stuff for boys. I think the boys don't understand that, right? Like my feet are going to make it so that I'm more deceptive as a setter, right? Like I can put myself in a better position. So, pick a spot there, Andrew. Footwork. You want to go early, middle, proficiency, jump setting. At what point should you be jump setting, I guess? Pick a spot there, Andrew. What are some things as a setting coach that you're kind of looking for?
I think at the youngest ages, I'm just looking at contact, how they're contacting the ball. Most of the time, I take their legs out of the equation just so that they can understand where they need to catch the ball at, where their contact point needs to be, and how they can create power from their set, just from their arms. Because a lot of these kids at young ages literally just look at themselves and they're like, I need to use my legs and push this ball as far as I can. But that creates bad habits, right? And then so I don't think I train most setters on a ton of footwork patterns until they're probably in 8th or 9th grade for girls. Boys probably till they're sophomores.
16s.
Yeah. So when we get into that, though, we get into that 8th grade, 9th grade where they're pretty good athletes now. They know they're going to be pretty good setters. That's when we start talking about pivot moves. Are we being square to the net? Things like that, so that they can be really athletic towards the net rather than just I'm setting up pretty vanilla offense. And when you get these good athletes who understand it and can comprehend what they're doing and are really good about body awareness, then you can see these kids learn super quickly.
They do. They pick it up fast. Boys especially.
Oh, absolutely.
Boys,
They pick it up really fast. You spent some time with a pretty good setter this year on the 16s team.
Yeah.
Trent Whalen's a nice little young setter.
He's a kid that he doesn't need to use his legs. He doesn't need to use his shoulders. Doesn't need to use his elbows. He's got these huge hands. So all he does is just boom.
Sometimes picking the setter is all about just shaking his or her hands, right? Like
Absolutely.
What kind of hands do you have? Little tiny baby hands don't usually equate to really good setting.
I think the biggest thing because we both coach girls and boys, so it's so cool to see how do we train different and how do we not train different. The biggest thing I think the boy can do that the girl can't is have a slightly higher catch point.
Yeah, they're a little stronger.
Just and that's about it. Other than that, they're gonna be, in my opinion, the same freaking thing.
And then you see girls like Briley Decker, who's got that high contact point as a girl and throws all that out the window.
Yeah.
She could play on most boys' courts in high school, Arizona high school volleyball right now, probably.
Could.
Yeah.
She's long.
Yep,
long kid.
Headed to BYU, going to be a Cougar. Let's end tonight with hitting.
That's a good one to end on.
Yeah, well, everybody wants to hit.
Everybody
wants to be a hitter. So starting early, emerging, right, 13s, 14s, we're talking about approach, step close, arm work, becoming more proficient. We're now going from just an approach to what kinds of approaches, right? Is it a 3-step? Is it a 4-step? What step are you on? We're talking about tempo, that kind of thing. Then you're moving into vision, being able to see not only the ball and the set or the block, things like that. And then your mastery. This is the stuff that I love this stuff. I admittedly, and I don't spend as much time with the young guys as you guys do. Admittedly, I'm much better with those 16s, 17s, and 18s. But toolbox and torque, being able to just hit every shot, understand what situations you need to be in, knowing that being a good hitter isn't necessarily about unloading on every ball and just hitting the heck out of it. So pick a spot there, Andrew. Where do you, what kinds of things do you look for early on? Let's go. I love that you've kind of been going there on every single one of them. Early on has been huge, right? Like, What do you look for early on as a hitter? And maybe does that change when you see stuff? I guess this is the $1 million question. At what point do you start picking positions, right? Because everybody shows up in the gym like, I'm going to be a hitter. Sometimes height determines it, but what kinds of skills are you looking for maybe that change that?
For me, it's a lot of it is how fast can we make their arm? And that's the $1 million question with every kid.
A lot of $1 million questions today, guys.
Oh, dude, yeah. Let me tell you that a kid with a fast arm is hard to find. And then training the fast arm, Will knows this as good as anybody, is that it's tough to find kids who have proper arm swings to start off. And you start making it relatable.
Why is that?
Well, for girls, it's like, do you play a lot of overhand throwing sports? Like the only one that, like for girls right now is softball sometimes, right? And then if they're throwing a ball back and forth in the backyard for whatever reason.
And maybe tennis.
Tennis. Yeah. But that's an extension, which makes it still awkward at times.
And it has a racket, so you don't have to have a fast arm because there's that bounce coming off of it.
It's crazy how many kids, boys, have never thrown a baseball. We'll get these new kids and I'm like, hey, it's just like throwing a baseball. It's like, I never throw a baseball.
What is it? Like T, step and throw, right? Isn't that what we were all taught?
How have you never thrown a baseball? I was born with one in my hand. I threw a baseball every day.
Why are we just football?
Throw a football. How many of them have never done that before? It's crazy.
So, I mean, you have to make it relatable. I think for a lot of these kids, if boys, it's really easy at times because you can just say, how do you throw a football? How do you throw a baseball? Yeah. All those things. I mean, we had a kid at Higley who was the star quarterback of Higley, played at Cal for a while. And he came into our gym day one, best arm swing in our gym.
Sure.
Yep. It was unbelievable.
Cranking balls.
Oh, absolutely. 10-foot line, everything, just hammering. And he's like, oh, I've only played in the church a couple times. And you're like, oh, this is great.
Before the show, we were talking about one of my old Desert Vista teams, and Sean Chase came up, baseball player, played at Oregon, catcher, with a cannon, and he showed up at the end of his baseball season that senior year, and all of a sudden he had played some volleyball, so he had some skill, but guy had a friggin' rocket. The best outside hitter on that 2017, Colin Harmon, he's actually a sports broadcaster for ABC 15 now.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's great. He was a baseball player.
Yeah, baseball players
pitcher,
really come over well.
Absolute cannon of an arm.
Dylan Cox.
Yeah, baseball player. Yeah. Right.
I mean, it definitely is the hardest sport is basketball players. All they know is jump high. They don't know how to jump high and hit hard.
They don't want to block the shot, right? Like it's different. Yeah, I remember early on with that team, that 2017, Michael Proctor, who was our great middle, was a basketball guy, and he told me it was one of the things that completely changed him as a volleyball player as his club coach put a tennis ball in his hand. And ever since then, I've used tennis balls to train because it's the same idea, right? I mean, we're arms up, we're throwing that ball, and it's funny to watch some of those kids throw a ball. They don't.
It's so foreign for them.
Yeah, they don't understand how it works.
What's the first thing a kid has to learn before we can teach them to jump high and hit hard?
Their load, the way they load their arms.
Explain that.
So getting a low load, a lot of coaches, old school or high load, start their arms super high above their head, and it creates a smaller window. You have to use more shoulder in your attack. There's not a lot of rotation, right? So as people have been studying it more, we talk about the low load and then kind of like teeter-tottering your shoulders so that you can rotate through the ball a lot more efficiently.
So that's what you teach our 12s and 13s.
Teeter-totter is my favorite word with them. They know the heck out of it.
So then when do you teach the footwork and the slow to fast and all that stuff?
So we talk about slow to fast early on. We don't talk about step counts except for first step tempo. We do not set fastballs or anything like that. Yeah. It takes a special team. Like my 13s team this year will be on first step, second step, maybe at the end of the year. When I had like kids like Ella Lamagora as a 13-year-old, who was one of the most intelligent kids I've ever seen in my life. Like you could teach her a swing block and she's elbows over the net at 13 years old.
Yeah, she takes it on.
And then, but those type of things are like, okay, now we're talking about tempo, right? I think if you're coaching a 14 ones team or twos team, probably at that age, you're starting to talk about second step tempos or what a quick is, right? And making sure they're running a quick. Mm-hmm. At 13s, you don't know what's going to happen. Like we've joked around a little bit, but also been kind of serious about like, is this kid going to be a middle her whole life? Like, we have a 6-footer in our gym.
No.
Please no.
She's a 6-footer, and she's like, do we keep her in the middle for right now? For now, maybe, but like, maybe we teach her how to settle. We've had her settle a little bit in practice. We have her pass in practice. So maybe her future isn't going to be that. I mean,
important for them to know the game.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at Avery Burks, who's a star at Perry High School right now, and she started off as a middle, and then we're like, by her end of her 13th year, I got some flack because I moved her to the outside. I was like, you're going to be an outside.
She's a dot. She's a great passer.
And now she's a great volleyball player on the left.
We've talked about it before about how just positionless
specializing.
volleyball. The Brazilian model.
It's the best way to do it.
Those Brazilians got it figured out. We just have to change everybody's mindset and be okay with losing some matches because we don't specialize at 13s.
Who cares if we lose at 14?
14s, but
who cares?
Moms and dads.
Yeah. When do you think a kid has mastered hitting? What do you think there's some things that they're doing that a 12-year-old is, like when we watch an 18 open court, what is it that they have, you know?
I think at 16s for girls, you'll start seeing big changes. 17s for boys, you see the biggest changes.
Yeah. So then, like, what is that specifically?
You'll see kids jumping through the ball more. You'll see them jumping into angles more rather than jumping head on. Most kids you see at this age are hitting 6 and 1. Those are their favorite.
They're just hitting their line of approach.
Yep, absolutely. And then when you start seeing kids take their approach to 5, and then they can hit sharp T, they can hit deep 5, they can hit deep 1. That's when your toolbox is completely different. And like, you look at these kids and you're like, where'd this come from?
Right.
Because you can say, I mean, we remember Trent when he first came into 17s, all he hit was line.
Right.
He's either high line or left shoulder, I'm stuck line.
Yeah.
And then now it's like, oh, he can hit sharp T, zone 5, sharp down the line, and you're like, oh my gosh, this kid is terrifying to play against.
Yeah, once you figure it out,
it's hard. Yeah.
Well,
I would say the one thing that I see when I walk over to an 18 open boys court that 17 some are doing, 16 not many are doing, is blasting the hands and not afraid of the hands, and then doing some like cheeky, you know, like cutty off the hands. That's the stuff that they get.
They just know it all.
And to build on that, I think that you also have the out of system play. People talk about this. This is very not talked about. Is like, you look at clubs like Beta Bay or certain clubs like that. They're putting that ball on the net and letting them do anything with that ball. And let me tell you, we do it with our girls team at 16s. Kids don't know what to do when it's on the net. Like, girls especially are like, oh my God, this girl's going to go under and she's going to hurt me. And we get open seams all the time.
Yeah, that messed us up last year. 17s, that MVVC team did it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's cool. We could talk about this stuff all night long.
Yeah. I love
some volley nerds.
The novice to, you know, master idea.
Great.
It's cool. And it's not age specific. It really isn't. I mean,
because you could be anywhere on the spectrum.
Correct. Like Landon, we were talking about him on the way here. Landon got into the sport at 16.
Yeah.
So he was a beginner at 16, but he went through those levels so fast.
Pretty fast, right?
So fast.
Well, and you just never know when kids are going to hit stripes. You look at like Bobby Hennigy, who is a giraffe. No one knows. When he first started playing volleyball, he was a giraffe.
Could not walk and chew gum at the same time.
Freshman All-American, then all of a sudden now like 3-time All-American for us.
National champion, Benedict.
He did it all.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's just a matter of when these kids are mentally prepared and physically prepared to make these adjustments. Like, there's kids like I said, Ella Lamagora, the first time I taught her to make a block move, perfect form.
Yep. They just get it. They just get it.
And then there's kids you can teach for a month straight and they're still learning how to do the process in of like
2 years straight.
It's good enough.
Yeah. No, it's I guess the message at the end of the night here is for moms and dads to be patient.
Absolutely.
Parents,
you never know when it's going to click.
Be patient with your kids. You know, don't give up on them. Don't expect too much from them. Try to view them in a light that is encouraging to them. You know, the negativity from moms and dads can be devastating for some of these kids. And I just don't think our parents are educated enough to know what it's supposed to look like. And at what age is my kid supposed to be doing this? And if they are behind, it's okay. Right. There's such thing as late bloomers all the time. I was one of them. Right. Yep. And you just have to be patient because eventually you're going to figure it out. It just might not happen right away. And hopefully we help shed some light on that today.
Absolutely.
And like I said, we could talk We could keep going. We'll probably put some people to sleep if we
We could go through a million stories of late bloomer kids.
We have lots of those. So thanks for joining us tonight. We
Don't
appreciate
forget trivia.
Today.
Do not forget trivia.
I already forgot the trivia. Noah, you want to end our show with some trivia? What do you got?
This is a new
Sure,
thing
let's
we're
do
doing.
it. This will probably be at the beginning of the video. Moving forward, right? 'Cause
Yeah, we're just got to be better.
We know
at
a lot
that.
of you don't listen to the end. All right.
Noah wants a
We know a
segment at
lot
the
of the
beginning.
analytics.
All right, what do you got, buddy?
What was who was the first Division II university to ever win an NCAA championship? Bonus points if you know the score of the first set.
Oh my gosh, what?
There's
That is so obscure.
Division 2. So like,
Wouldn't that be a 15
This is
point game
women's. You're saying women's.
This is men's.
Oh, women's. Oh,
Men's. Division 2?
a Division 2 school.
Has to be Lewis.
Won the national championship. Like Division 1 national championship.
Lewis doesn't have any. They're vacated. They cheated, right?
Do we count vacation?
Vacation.
I love vacation.
Not vacation.
I like
Vacated.
vacation.
I would love to go on vacation.
Is this in the millennium or is this in?
It says first ever.
So you don't know the year?
No,
Oh
it does
my
not have
God.
the year.
It's so obscure.
Loyal is a D2 school.
There's no way it was Loyola first.
I don't know. They won back to back.
Put your guesses in the comments, and we'll get it next episode.
That's a good one. That's
Okay.
This is a mint. So just say the question again, just so it's.
Who was the first Division II university ever to win an NCAA championship?
The men's.
Men's, correct.
Problem is
men's.
people are going to Google, right? Don't
That's
Google.
fine.
Don't cheat.
Yeah,
put your
don't
comment. Put your answer.
If any of you get the set score, I know you cheated.
Yeah, there you go. If the set
16,
score was 32 to 30.
Dang, that's tough because they might have been
It's
D2 then.
Well, it's
but they're
before
not
Riley
D2
scoring,
now.
probably.
Yeah, I could have changed it.
There's
Yeah.
a good chance before Riley scoring,
be.
too.
Well, if you know the
I'll
answer,
just say Loyola just
There
because
you
I
go,
know
Loyola.
they're D2. Yeah.
all right. Ball State's my guess. Hey,
Is it Ball State D1?
but they would.
Sure, we don't know.
One,
We
right?
don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I just threw it out there. If you've stuck around this long, we congratulate you. Hopefully, you can get your guess in there on the comments. Like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff, and we will see you next time. Thanks, people.
Peace.